Hi, this is Andre from Eskasoni Ripple Effects. I'm sitting here in my kitchen with Elizabeth Marshall, and we're going to talk about a day in the life of a water protector. So I'm going to set up my pot like I usually do, and we're going to put it in here. And here comes Elizabeth. So Elizabeth, we've known each other for a bit. I've been on a few journeys of activism with you. Warrior stuff. I was privileged to be invited as an outsider and
community member.
Community member now. I'm adopted. I'm an adopted member of Eskasoni, and this is the first time I get to sit down with you this close and personal. So I had to write some things down. So I have quite a list to ask you about, and we're just going to hint about some stuff. First of all, when you think about Elizabeth Marshall, what I think about is treaty, activism, Ilnu knowledge, the language, a whole bunch of stuff. But lately, Elizabeth has been on and off social media for like weeks at a time, and we've been wondering what she's been up to, and she's hinting that she's writing a book, and it's called Whale Tales. So we're going to get to that after a few questions, but I thought I'd start with treaty. We talk about treaty a lot and what's going on in the government right now with the fight against it and all that. How long have you been studying treaty?
It's been a part of my awareness all of my life. My great-grandfather was Gabriel Sillaboy, who was convicted in 1920s for so-called illegal harvesting of muskrat. But so in my family, my mother's family, we always knew about our treaty. I always also knew about the Ulnapskog or our wampum because of our tradition and my close connection in the communities. I spend my life going to Bodlodek, Minigo, the island, to celebrate our traditions. Even though on the surface they appear to be completely Catholic, when one really gets to know the traditions as intimately and as well as I have learned, they go far beyond what does appear. I think the Catholic aspect of it almost provided a mask of protection for our women, because that's the only place anywhere in the Catholic, where people call themselves Catholics, that women are allowed to make water holy. Everywhere else it takes the man and the priest.
Was it illegal to gather in those days?
It's always been illegal for Mi'kmaq people to gather and to celebrate. Anytime Mi'kmaq people, there were two people together, the oppressor felt threatened. So we were discouraged from any type of assembly, even prohibited from playing our traditional games, because they viewed that as a way to come together to unite. So anytime we came together, the settler oppressor felt threatened.
I heard a story about the Waltis game. Did they actually drill holes in the bottom of the bowls?
Yeah, that's
to
one
not
of the
put
legends.
water?
Yes, they've done many things to our people. I think the worst thing they did to our people, from my perspective and from everything I have learned, to me, the worst thing that was given to our people was how to be hateful and mean and violent.
How long do you think that's evolved over a period of how
Prior
long?
to the 1920s, there's no such record of a Mi'kmaq person being violent towards another Mi'kmaq person. It didn't exist prior to the 1920s. Into the 30s even, and right up until the World War, our elders were still practicing the traditions of Abisik Duakan, which is like a loose translation would be reconciliation, repent, and something like that altogether.
Speaking of reconciliation, what are your thoughts about what's going on right now with the efforts with the governments to reconcile with First Nations?
Oh, it's all rhetoric. I don't believe one moment of sincerity, because Mi'kmaq language is a verb-based language, so that I have been trained to look at the actions, not the words.
Mm-hmm.
And Trudeau's words and message fall short. They're not sincere. And although he's talked about reconciliation, there really has not been any reconciliation. I think his racism was really well obvious in how he treated Jody Robalt Wilson, in how there's a national crisis in terms of water for many communities who are under boil order, and even worse, that they can't even use water that's boiled.
Our communities, Budladeka.
Yes, here in Unamangi, Bodlodegas,
That's
one.
really bad there.
That's really bad there.
The water's like black.
But they're not as isolated as some of the northern communities,
Yeah.
who are so isolated and who are left with to deal with the impact of the toxins by just living with the diseases and the illness.
So really, when you think about it, Budladek, they have no excuse for that condition of their water.
Well,
With
it's not the
technology-
fault of the government. I mean, when you think that there's trillions of dollars in the Indian Trust Fund that pays for the pensions for politicians, that pays for the infrastructure of the settlement of so-called Nova Scotia, that has paid for the construction of numerous churches, bridges, buildings, schools for the settler communities all over, hospitals. Since we have paid for practically all of the infrastructure that the tax collectors or the taxpayers now call their own, perhaps it's time to start spending some of our monies on our people.
On ourselves.
Yeah, on us.
So that brings me to the next question. What do you think is needed to implement treaty in our lives? Would that be part of it?
Well, I have a plan. And I just came from talking to a couple of the leadership this morning up at the band office. And the plan is to host a gathering of an Abisiktuahan gathering. Because Eskasoni, where we live, was calculated and was the agenda to keep us marginalized, oppressed, so that they could steal our land and the resources, because we are the barrier to that.
Yeah.
And so by institutionalizing our people through residential school, through centralization programs, we became what they would call as a process of being dispossessed. We became disconnected from one another, from the environment. So in order to recover, we're not going to recover with psychedelic drugs. We're certainly not going to recover with alcohol. We're not going to recover with the medical community and with the scientific community, nor with the legal community, or any of those professional institutes, and any of those professions cannot assist us. What we need is our own tradition of Abisiktuahan, and to come together and to give us a vehicle to repent and to recover and to reconcile. And then once we can do that as a community together, then we can sit down and decide amongst ourselves, what does Abisiktuahan look like?
Yeah.
What does it feel like?
Yeah.
How are we going to play it out so that we can offer our children a peaceful coexistence and friendship as was intended under our own upskuk? We have to show them how. Basically lead by example.
So do you think the treaty was given to us by the Creator or by the people?
Oh my God, no, it wasn't by the people. The only thing that's been man-made is government and religion and law. Okay? Those things were made by man for man.
Mm-hmm.
Ulnaf School were made by the Wabanaki nations with the spirit and intent of Creator.
So the Wabanaki, what territory would that cover?
In present day Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, Prince Edward Island, Quebec, Gaspé, right up down to St. Lawrence, and Maine, eastern
So
Maine.
most of the
And
eastern seaboard.
yes, those are our Wabanaki allies under the Wabanaki Confederacy.
Okay.
And we all had a belt affiliated with that wampum, that unity, that alliance.
So when we talk about treaty, we can't avoid talking about activism.
Because you have to assert.
You have to
There's
assert.
a misconception that we need the federal government and the provincial governments want you to believe that we require their consent in order to assert our rights and our under treaty, our harvesting rights and all of our rights. But there's not one word in treaty that mentions government, not one word mentions religion, and not one word mentions law. So why do we need those things?
We just need to assert.
We just need to assert.
So when we talk about activism, you started at an early age.
All my life.
All your life?
I was
since
groomed.
you were a kid?
I was groomed right from a childhood to defend the weak. I was groomed right from childhood to take leadership on things for the community. The elders, I was trained to be teachable by the elders. And so from a very young age, I was, like when I was a teenager in high school, I was organizing the Winter Carnival in Eskasoni.
Okay.
At 17 years old, I had to take 2 weeks off of high school in order to coordinate all the activities to run a community winter carnival. At 17 years old.
So you've been engaged with the community.
Yes, from
since
a very young age. Yes, I was fortunate enough to be pulled in and groomed from a very. Merdina Marshall was my greatest mentor, my mother. I had other mentors like Rita Joe. I had Helen Martin. I got to work for Helen Martin, who was the founder of the Native Women's Association of Nova Scotia. I got to work with her as a summer student way back in the 70s when I was in high school. You know, and then another trailblazer, the late Miranda Gabriel, who is one of the founders for the present day Native Association, the Alcohol and Drug Native Association. NADCA. NADCA. She was one of the founders, and she pulled me in as a teenager and had me working for them and training. And many of these people who mentored me are no longer here.
Mm.
And when I got, as I continued living and doing in this community as I have all my life, I stumbled into being a warrior. I don't even know where it all began.
I think we all kind of.
Yeah, they found us. I didn't find them. They found me.
Yeah.
I remember.
Activism kind of leads to it.
Yeah, I remember the first call I got in 2000 and I got a call from our people. We're down in Digby, and they said, Elizabeth, will you come out and help us? And I told my women friends, Aggie baby, she's passed away now, Aggie Gould, and Annette Lois, she's my good friend. She's hitting in Eskasoni. And I says, so guys, I says, they're calling for us women as warriors down to defend the fishers. I says, ladies, we got to go help them. They must be damn desperate if they're calling women for help. So we went.
I don't know. I've seen how tough the women are in Eskasoni, and they can hold their own. I'll tell you that much.
We did hold our own, I have to say, and we asserted and we changed the law.
So speaking of Digby, we have fishermen asserting their rights right now for lobster fishermen, and it's in Digby right now, and boats are being burnt and stuff like that. Do you have a feeling those days might come back?
No, I do have there's a threat that is coming, yes, but I really have confidence that in our settler communities we need each other.
I have the feeling that there's more people for us than against
That's
us.
so true. I think the same people that are bullying the settler communities are also bullying our people because they have bullies that they have to deal with down in Amershad and Almadam and down in Duncan and Glace. They have these little, wannabe mafia types
Yeah,
that they have to deal with. They have their own bullies,
yeah.
and I think it's the same bullies that are, on their drunken probably escapades. But so
So
I
it's
think reconciliation and abisiktuahan is possible, not only for our own people, but between us and them too.
so a treaty was for everybody.
It is for everybody, but it hasn't been used for everybody so far.
Yeah, I don't think it has been used for us
No,
either.
no, it hasn't been used for our benefit. It's been used to oppress us so far.
So when we talk about activism, tell us about your biggest success in your activism. What would be your best fight and your biggest success?
Oh my God, seeing the numbers of people now, because when I started out, it was only a handful of us
Mm.
20 years ago, right? 20 years ago, there was only a few warriors. My cousins in Wego and Ma de Bernard guys,
7.
seven and his
Yeah.
brothers, I really been having a hard time since seven passed away, and my mother,
It's
they
been
died,
over a year.
yeah, they died a month apart from each
Yeah.
other. And both of them were they were really my poles of strength and courage.
There was no fear in 7.
No, or my mother.
No,
My mother was fearless.
that's the first thing I noticed.
And same with seven. And with seven, I could be courageous because I knew that he was there to back me up. So I could, as long as I was doing the right thing, and as long as I was living up to the Ulnap school, then I knew that seven would back me up. So I was never afraid, ever.
So with all the years of activism, what personal cost would you think is the greatest when being involved in the fights and struggles of your communities?
Oh, I think I think the most difficult thing for me is misunderstanding by those that hold contempt for me.
The ones that hold more power, or
No, I don't know. For me, power is not your monetary lifestyle. To me, that's nothing. That you can't take you over to the other side.
yeah, yeah.
So I don't put a lot of weight in that, but I feel a lot of for those that feel I threaten the status quo,
Mm.
they're not afraid to express their contempt for me, and it hurts. It doesn't stop hurting,
Yeah.
and because I love them.
Yeah.
Even though they may not love me, I still love them, and I do the activism because of my
So you're not being hateful. You're just trying
being
to teach.
loyal.
You're being loyal to the people
Yes,
first before money or
Yes.
possessions or status or
Exactly.
anything like that. It's the people
I was
first.
taught to be loyal to
Yeah.
my people and to my ancestors and to my Creator.
That's what I learned too with my upbringing, is to be loyal. I've been with Mary Rose for 18 years now, and
Yeah, that's why we get along, because I
Yeah.
could see that in you.
Yeah.
That's why you're accepted in this community. It's by your actions.
yeah,
You've
Yeah.
demonstrated.
I'm not
that.
here to take.
No.
I've always tried to give.
Yeah, that's why you're accepted.
So when we speak of activism, there's the very sad part of it is the missing and murdered women in Canada.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on this file? Who's dropping the ball on this?
Oh my God, I have a lot of anger on this issue, Andre. I
Right.
have a lot of anger. First of all, I want to know why every single person that has died under the watch of the Cape Breton Regional Police, every single Aboriginal Indigenous person from Eskasoni who died in Sydney or around Sydney under mysterious
Yeah,
circumstances,
yeah,
every single one of those half a dozen individuals in my lifetime,
yeah.
I'm 58,
I'm 51.
in my lifetime that have died under mysterious circumstances we know in this community that they didn't just accidentally die.
Or fall in the water.
Yeah. Stumble and die. You don't stumble and die.
My friend Aaron Paul, he was killed in 2010 on Treaty Day, and he was left on the tracks for dead, and the train ran over him.
Nobody's ever been. So Cape Breton Regional Police and the Cape Breton Regional Mayor, they need to have an inquiry conducted immediately.
Just in this region alone.
Just in this region alone. Just in the Cape Breton. Just under their watch.
Yeah.
Over since 1970. We already know what they did to Donald Marshall in 1972. So let's take a look at what they've done since 1972 to rectify the hateful and the damaging decisions that they've made as a police force, a collective body of men.
Because he was wrongly accused of murder.
They actually set him up.
They set him up.
John McIntyre, who was the police chief at the time, actually set him up and actually forced the witnesses to give false testimony. It's a horrible crime what happened and how John McIntyre and the men that were involved, how
many years did he spend in jail?
11 years.
11 years for something
and
he
he
didn't
spent
do.
that long in there because he refused to accept responsibility.
Well,
he refused to accept that he committed murder, and he refused to say, "I'm sorry, I murdered Sandy Steele, and I repent." He refused to say that.
So in all activism, what advice do you have for the younger generations wanting to assert their treaty rights and participate in community activism? What is the...
Keep it clean. Be kind. Be sober. We need sober people in leadership. We need people with compassion, and we need people that will speak up for the underdog. That's what we need. We need good people. We need people full of love, full of compassion, and full of knowledge. We don't need violence. We don't need reckless individuals. We don't need those things. We need out of poverty. And I'm going to find a way to bring my people out of poverty. And I'm going to use the Ulnupskog Wampum Treaty to do it. And it's going to make a lot of people in the status quo uncomfortable.
That's what brings me to my next question. What did you think was the most pressing issues in Eskasoni that need to be addressed in order to have a better quality of life? So when we come back to poverty, do you think poverty is the most urgent thing to be addressed?
I do think that poverty is the number one killer in this community. Most definitely.
I stood up and said...
Food security is necessary for everyday life.
Yeah.
We do not have food security, Andre. You would not believe how many people I feed on a regular basis.
I believe it with the food bank.
I feed people on a regular basis, even though I'm on a fixed income myself, because there's just so much need. Every now and then I get people from others that come and they help me, and I redistribute the food or the clothing that has been given to me, because there is just so much need here.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
And it's unnecessary. Am I poor when I have title for thousands and thousands and thousands of hectares of land?
Yeah, and resources
that have made generations of settler communities prosperous. Why cannot that be available for my family?
Yeah. Do you think like with the government and the way social assistance and disability and stuff like that, the inequality of it all just blows me away every day, because my wife has MS and she can't even get disability.
Yeah.
Do you think that would be a start to equalize?
It's so way against of our traditions not to take good care of the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's so counterintuitive.
Yeah.
And counter everything to our culture and our way of life not to take care of the most vulnerable. They should be, in our tradition, the hunter, the harvester didn't eat from his catch.
Yeah.
Instead, the most vulnerable and the weakest were fed first.
I teach that to my sons.
Yeah.
We like if I hunt 5 rabbits, I'll give 4 away. if I fish 10 salmon, I'll give 9 away.
Yeah.
And I teach that to my kids because there's people that can't go fishing and
Yeah,
can't
I'm
go
one of
hunting.
them.
You know, so it's good to be able to. It makes me proud too to be able to go in the woods, get something out, and feed a family. And all it cost me was a walk in the woods, really.
Yeah.
So with all this talk about inequality, activism, and treaty, you started writing a book.
Yes, I've written a book. I got 88 pages of that first draft. It's called Whale Tales, and it's about the water, and it's about, when you think about it, I guess this occurred to me a couple of weeks ago, that all human species, we originally, if we are into Darwinism and the whole idea of evolution, then we have all evolved from the water.
Yeah.
So how are they any less our relations than you and I?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we say all my relations, who are we talking about?
Yeah.
Are we just talking about humans?
Nogama.
No, you're not talking about just humans when you say that.
Yeah.
When you say that, you're saying all our relations.
Because we do have a relationship with nature and animals, and
Yeah,
they're
and-
part of our sustainability.
And in our traditional harvesting practices, we didn't do mass production and mass harvesting. As a matter of fact, in our tradition, the animal or the fish sort of comes to you and gives up their life for you
When you're hungry.
when you're hungry.
Yeah.
And the other animals help you.
Yeah.
Do you know? So
Yeah.
so in Whale Tales, it's based on a true story, and the true story is that in November 2017, just a few days after the murdered and missing inquiry in Membertou, two women wanted to come and visit me to talk about the Ilnapskog and treaty, Rebecca Moore and Grizzly Mama, and on the way over to my house on this Thursday evening, Rebecca saw, what is wrong? Do we get questions?
Madeline, hey buddy, there are times when you should rotate your phone so we can see both of you. Oh,
You can't see me?
We're not close enough. How's that, Madeline?
Do you see us now?
Don't do it now. Thought you before you hit the record. Yeah, I did line it up, but there.
So we're not in there.
Yeah, we're in there. We're just kind of in there.
Oh, I see.
That's
Okay.
that's the hassle of working on a low budget.
No budget.
So
Oh,
back to Whale Tales.
So on a Thursday evening, Rebecca comes over to my house, and it was 2 days before we were going to have the Beaver Moon Gathering, which was going to be on a Saturday, and we were going to broadcast Treaty Talks live with an elder from El Sibuktuk, Henry Augustine. So Rebecca comes over and she says, you wouldn't believe this cloud I just seen in the sky. It was in the shape of a whale, and in the eye socket of the whale was the full moon. I said, oh my God, Rebecca, that's extraordinary. I said, you want to know something? The whale, I said, is a messenger of our people. And when we receive a message from the whale, it could be of major epic significance. And it's something that we should pay attention to. So I said, maybe the whales are in All's Cove. I said, sometimes they're down in All's Cove at this time of the year. I said, you want to go down there in the morning to check if they're there? Sure, they said. So the next morning, Grizzly Mama, myself, and Rebecca Moore head down to All's Cove. And sure enough, when we arrived there, there's 3 whales in the cove. So, oh my gosh, we were overjoyed, of course, seeing this beautiful spectacle of whales. On top of the sharks that were there, and the dolphins, and there were dozens of eagles. The cove was just full of life. Of course, it's a man-made cove.
Yeah.
And so before we got off the island, I went to the lighthouse and made a tobacco offering, just to give thanks at the blessing of having the whales there for my friends visit, because they had never seen whales from land. So we were sitting there watching, and I said, hey guys, I said, do you want to go on to the mainland side? Maybe we can get a better view of them over there. So they said, sure, we're all excited. So we go to the mainland side, and I see this couple, a man and woman, down by closer to the shore, and I tell the women, you know, I really feel compelled that I should do another ceremony, except I feel like I should do a water one right at the water. I said, I need to make a tobacco offering. I said, if that couple down there can make it down those rocks, I said, I think I can make it down too. So Rebecca says, well, do you think I can walk down to the causeway? She said, so maybe I can get a better view over there. I won't get into trouble. Well, what do you think, darling? I said, you're a title holder and you own this land. Who the hell has the authority to tell you you can't walk there? I says, just be safe, don't be reckless. And I says, you'll be fine. So off she went. And then Grizzly Mama stayed up the above level. Then I crawled down and I went towards the water. And then when I got close to the water, I saw there was another level of rocks that I would have to go down in order to reach the water. And I lost my nerve. So I looked at this man who was helping me, and I felt an instinct that I could trust him. So I said, I explained to him what I was doing, that I wanted to make an offering and why, and that I needed to make the offering of tobacco right to the water, right at the water. And I asked him if he would, because he had mentioned that he had been in the military and that he was retired, so I figured he was in better shape than I was. Mm-hmm. So he took my tobacco offering, and he took it down to the water for me, and his wife was there as well, so she invited me to sit beside her, and she had pictures. She had been there all week taking pictures, and she had these most beautiful pictures she'd taken off the digital camera, and of course we could see the whales out there, and we were just so overjoyed and happy. But as the afternoon progressed, we could see that the female, we knew it was a female because the biologist had been there to explain in the cove the day before, because they had observed that the female was in distress and that she was acting in a very strange way, and so they had called DFO. DFO came to the Alls Cove and said that the whale was very ill, deathly ill, likely from maybe lesions from getting hit by propellers from these giant ships, or any number of things could have caused her illness. And they knew it was a female because when the female delivers her first calf, she'll develop a ridge on her tail.
Okay.
So that's how they distinguish the humpback female from the male. So they knew it was a female that was in distress. So as we were watching them, what was happening was the female was, of course, dying, or maybe and so here she was above the water, and as the two with her, I assume was her mate and probably her offspring, they tried to keep her afloat all afternoon, and every time one of them came up for air, she would sink. But then they would go back and they would lift her up again. And this happened all afternoon. So I was just sobbing. Finally, I couldn't help myself. I was crying and grieving for her. And I was saying to my friends, how could anybody not believe that these beautiful whales do not feel the love that we feel?
Yeah. Yeah.
How could anybody doubt their love, their loyalty? How could anyone doubt their spirit?
Yeah.
And I was crying, and I said, I wish Henry was here. Henry Augustine is the elder that conducted the ceremony for us 3 months prior at Halifax at the Cornwallis statue. He's the one that did the ceremony to banish the spirit of Cornwallis. And we all know Cornwallis is gone now, right?
Yeah, he's not in Halifax anymore.
No, he's gone back to hell. And so we knew that, I knew that Henry could do the ceremony to help her continue her journey to the spirit world. Because in our belief, when we pass from this earth, we go on to the Sispasawegati.
The Milky Way?
Yes, the Milky Way. And that's where we get to shake off any of our earthly burdens that we still are left with, right? So, because our journey to Creator is where the Creator is so well hidden that it's a journey to get there too.
Yeah.
You don't just pop, you just don't get there, we're told. So, Henry, anyways, shortly, about 5 minutes after I had called for Henry, I was standing on the side of the road at the causeway, crying my eyes out, just sobbing, sobbing, sobbing in grief. And I heard a voice behind me, and it says, "Hello, my darling."
There's Henry.
Yeah, and I turned around. I said to myself, I can't believe this. I turned around. It was Henry. I said, "Oh my God." And I started crying all of them even more. And I said, "Oh my God, I'm so happy to see you." And I told him what was going on with the whale. And at that point, I didn't believe that she had passed. I didn't want, even though you couldn't see any of the water coming from her spout, I didn't want to believe she had passed away. So I said, "I think she's still living." I says, "Henry, I'm not sure." And he says, "No." He said, "She's gone. She passed away about 15 minutes ago." I said, "Oh my God." So anyway, Henry ended up doing spirit ceremony for her, and shortly after, her mate and I guess her offspring were able to leave her once. And anyway, I went home that day and talking with my friends, and we had a gathering and so on and so forth. And through about a week or so passed, Whale Tales, I decided to write it as a story.
Yeah.
As what happened, because it's a true story. It really happened.
Yeah.
And as I was writing it, it sort of took on a life of its own. And it became the story about our Unapskog, about our Wapen relationship, about who we are as people, and how we're supposed to behave towards one another.
The loyalty that the whales were showing each other inspired that, huh?
That's right. That's right. Because in my story, Whale Tales, my main character is Abigail, the whale Abigail. The grandmother, my mother has passed away. It's been 1 year since my mother passed. So I've decided to call the main character who has passed away after my mother, Merdina.
Okay.
And so in my story, Whale Tales, once Merdina tells her granddaughter that she's dying, because they're all going back to the Grand Banks. They're all the marine life, the whales included, are coming from the south to go to the Grand Banks for a gathering of all the marine life. They're having council there. They're going to share wampum like they've always been doing. And the Grand Banks is the only area in all of the Atlantic Ocean that's protected. So they go there every fall for their gathering. And
that's off Sable Island, or?
Yeah, no, it's off of Newfoundland, kind of between Newfoundland and Cape Breton, way up.
Okay.
And so, and it's beautiful there. It's like very rich in ground fishery and everything what's left, pretty well everything has been wiped out.
Yeah.
By overfishing and all this other stuff. So, but in the story, they're all going to, and then on the way, the grandmother knows that she's becoming closer and closer to death, and she feels that it's time that she has to break the news that she's going to pass very soon. So she makes a difficult choice to tell her granddaughter that she's about to pass away and that she's very ill, and and so she does tell her. And of course, the granddaughter Abigail is just overcome with grief and sorrow and anger. All the stages of grief she goes through. And then she goes to sleep for a while, and then she wakes up and she remembers the stories. She remembers the legends, the aduguahan, that they were given to her all throughout her life. And she remembers this reoccurring dream she has about Glooskap, who keeps telling her in the dream. He appears to her in a dream, and he comes out of the water and as a being, and he's made of water, all swirling. All of his body is made of swirls of water, and swirling all different parts. And he comes out and he tells her, "Go and look for the water protectors. They will give you a voice. They'll give a voice to the ocean. You go seek their help. Go and share wampum with them again. Go and remind them of the Unapskog that you share with them. They're your relatives." And so she goes to her grandparents and she tells them, "Please, let's go to All's Cove. I want to go see the water protectors. I want to go see the water protectors are going to be there. Let's go." And the grandmother is saying, "No, my darling, I don't want to go to All. I want to spend my last days with my family, with our relatives, with our loved ones. I don't want to spend my last energies going to All's Cove. I want to spend it with the people I love. And she begs her grandmother, please come to All's Cove. Please, let's go see the water protectors. We have to go see them. So she manages to convince them, and so the whale family, with their delegation, they come to All's Cove and they wait, and they're there. On the third day, we arrive, and on the third day, she passes away.
She passes away.
Yeah.
And you watched it.
Yes, we witnessed to it.
So your book is kind of a metaphor to what's going on in our communities and what we should do to lift ourselves up.
Yep.
So the action of the whales of trying to keep life into the mother and raising up is basically what we need in
Yes.
our communities to lift ourselves up and to be like the whales.
Yeah.
So your whale tales is about activism, it's about
Reconnection.
culture, reconnection, it's about life,
Love.
living, love,
Death,
loyalty.
Skog.
Yeah.
It's all those things. Healing,
Healing.
recovery.
Yeah. Major part of what we need.
Yeah. It's all about that.
It's hard to talk about, huh?
It's very emotional because that's when the Creator is present.
Yeah.
Is in our emotions. So when our emotions are open and are raw, that's when the Creator can move in.
Yeah.
You know.
And you feel it. Yeah.
And so that's the message that I was told to share. So I went up there and talked to a couple of people at the bed office. So I'm in the process of beginning to plan a gathering. I think we should have it in December because it's the most lonely time for a lot of people.
Christmas.
Well, maybe not that. Maybe around the 10th.
Yeah.
Or so. I don't even know what day that falls on. But I'd like to have a ceremony, a gathering of just our people where we can sit down in the community and try to conduct the Abisiktuan ceremony. At least bring in the person that knows the prayers in the ceremony and other elders and sit down for a few hours or maybe for the day over some food and some tea and some, and just sit down and say, how can we restore our tradition of Abisiktuan?
So a local Wabanaki Mawiomi.
Your first step.
Yeah.
So we can start
gathering.
all those steps till we figure out the dance.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then once we can figure out the dance, then we'll host we'll host a Wabanaki gathering.
So this could take years, huh?
Yeah, well, it's been years. It's taken me 10 years to talk, 12 years to say what I just said.
To get to this point.
Yeah. I was asked in 2007 to do this by the elders, but I didn't know what it was. I was asked from the other side. My grandmother asked me in 2006. She'd already been dead 21 years. And she asked me to do this. And it's taken me
10 years.
Over 10
years. 10 years.
To so 12 years, 12, 13
you really
years.
had to think about this and research what it means, right?
Mm-hmm. And just
to honor their request and make sure you're doing it right.
Yes. Our way, or the old way, their way. And I have the support now of people in the leadership.
Yeah. That's good.
Yes.
That's
so
good.
they've offered their support, and I think that's a very important first step.
Do you feel there's a shift there happening?
Yeah, there has to
for
be.
the people?
Yeah, because I think I pushed the shift.
Yeah. That's
I think
good.
I pushed the Olnaf Skog hard enough and strong enough where they know now that what I'm saying is
the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just hot air or whatever, that it's real.
Well, I'm not from here, and I can tell you're telling the truth. So I believe in it. I've been trying to teach my kids as much as I can about hunting, fishing, gathering, and respecting. Sharing. Mostly sharing, and empathy. Empathy is very important to me when it comes to raising my children. And sometimes empathy will get you in trouble because you put yourself in other people's position and their feelings become yours.
But it's important to pay attention to those emotions.
Yeah.
Even in anger, because in those strong emotions, that's where Creator is.
Yeah.
So you need to. That's where the creator is able to get in. When we're in our raw, driven,
Yeah.
emotional state, whether that's
Yeah.
anger, whether that's hysteria, whether
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
laughing.
Mania or
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
There's like a little bunch
genuine.
of clues there that you
Yeah.
got to follow, and if you miss them, you're gonna repeat until you do get them, right? So those cycles keep the
and it's all about becoming human.
Yeah.
Being a human being. That's all it is about.
Yeah.
So therefore, when one becomes a human being, because when you think about it, the whales never stop being whales.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The dogs never stop being dogs.
Yeah.
The only ones that stop being who we were intended to be are the human beings.
Yeah.
So our way is the way back to being human.
We got clouded with riches and lands
materialism,
and powers and
alcohol,
drugs,
materialism,
yeah,
sex,
yeah,
gambling,
yeah,
addictions, all these things. We got
all the vices.
But those are just kind of medicine for the poverty and the oppression.
Yeah.
If we could eliminate the poverty, eliminate the oppression,
all those things would go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The kids could go to movies once in a week.
Yeah.
They could go skiing and ski on like our neighbors do.
Yeah.
They could go to the YMCA 3 times a week to swim like our neighbors do. You know what I mean? They could.
It is hard to.
It's impossible to do those things on a social assistance income. It is impossible to go to Sydney. I take kids to town on a regular basis that have 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds who have never eaten at McDonald's in town.
I've taken some kids to Point Michaud. I've taken them to Mabu bike trails. And
it's a new experience, right?
They've never. I've even taken a kid off the 105 where we get the water. The source there, kid's never been there in his life, and I'm sitting there, a guy from Quebec who's been to Meat Cove probably 20 times already, and I can't understand how any of these kids never. Some of them never got to see the ocean. They never got to see the ocean.
That's right.
And it just blows me away because we're like 40 minutes away, maybe half an hour away.
That's what poverty does in isolation, and that's what was intended for this community at Eskasoni. And the only thing that I could find, or I was told, that is comparable is Pagorum.
What's that?
The only place you can find Pagorum, when you look for it, is if you Google Pagorum, you can only find it in Revelations 2. Do you know what Pagorum is?
No, I have no idea.
Pagorum is one of the 7 cities that were condemned by God for their evil ways.
So we're kind of like Pagorum?
Eskasoni is Pagorum, is the seat of Satan or seat of evil. But it was intended by the crown, drunken, wealthy men who wanted to control the land and resources. It was deliberate. That's why they put centralization, why residential school, why they stole the Olnop school, why they enforced the Indian Act elections. All to wipe out the memory of the sacred and replace it with Pagorum.
Which is not what we want.
No, and it's not us.
No.
So how do we turn it around?
That's where most of the sickness is coming from.
Yes, right.
It's because I compare this place like to having an invisible fence around it or a big dark cloud over it, and there's just no way of...
Well, it was intended.
Yeah, it's on purpose.
Yeah, it's on purpose.
There's no way this is an accident.
No, it's intended. It was on purpose.
Because if I know what's going on, and I'm from Ottawa, that means the guys in Ottawa knows what's going on.
Oh, they have very strong records of their agenda and plan. Yeah. And if you go to the trouble of actually looking, you'll find it. It's very, very clear what the agenda was. And it's in plain sight. It's just scattered.
Yeah.
And you have to have I've done a lot of reading and a lot of research and a lot of thinking and listening, so I've had a chance to sort of,
Yeah, piece the puzzle together.
Yeah, because I like to do that.
Yeah.
I have OCD, so it helps me with.
Do you
understand?
Yes, I understand OCD.
Well,
you haven't seen me build a microphone yet.
No, I've learned to work through my, not disabilities, but work with them.
Yeah. turning into a curse into a blessing.
Yes.
Instead of
I use it for fuel.
Yeah.
Rather than to dampen me, it
Yeah.
refuels me.
That's what I do too.
Because I suffer PTSD, and I'm sure lots of us do. Yeah, because I'm a victim of abuse, sexual assault, and you name it. I'm a product of this community, and that's thank you, Indian Affairs. You know.
Yeah.
That my people were taught and conditioned to be torturers.
Speaking of Indian affair, do you think the Indian Act should be abolished?
I could care less.
Couldn't care less?
No, because my agenda is to uphold the UNAP school.
Yeah. So it has nothing to do with it.
No, I don't care what they do.
Yeah.
I really don't. I could use it to our advantage.
Yeah.
Believe me,
Yeah.
I could.
Yeah.
But I don't need their consent for anything.
Yeah. That's where treaty comes in.
Yeah. All you need is two Mi'kmaq or two Ulnu.
To agree.
Or you could even have one, because it could be between you and Creator.
Okay.
That's the two.
Okay.
Don't forget, that's who the wampum we share with is between.
And that's a huge responsibility. I find that freedom comes to a cost.
Of course it
Because
does.
we have to manage. We have to.
We did it through these ceremonies of Abisiktuwahan.
So that's where the ceremonies
Those
tie in.
connections and those ceremonies are it was removed. So how are you going to hold a cup of tea without a vessel?
Yeah. Yeah.
They removed the vessel thinking we would forget we were sacred people. And we almost did.
Yeah.
But many of us didn't forget because the elders kept it with them.
Yeah.
By word of mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't find this stuff in the library
No, because it was secret. It was intended to be secret. I did all of
self-preservation, huh?
I'm not sure why they did it, only that they instructed one another to do it. Because I read all of the stuff that was written about the Wabanaki Confederacy, about what was written about the UNAP School, what was written about the Wampum, and this is what I discovered. They sent Frank Speck out. He was highly financed by, I would imagine, church groups and scholarly groups from the United States. And he was well funded to research our wampum. So he did. And he went all over the place in the United States, in Canada, up to wampum, with other down in Maine and other. He went all over the place. He was well funded to conduct research on this topic. And when he came to the Mi'kmaq people, he found out that we shared, and we were actually the last ones doing the UNAP school ceremony at Minigu once the mission celebrations were concluded. Then and the tourists left.
Yeah.
Then they would do the UNAP school ceremony
in secret.
Well, not really. They had it in open, but it was after all the Catholic thing was over and after the tourists left. Then
it's like secrecy in wide open.
Yeah.
It's like you had to understand what was going on.
The Badus would call out with he'd had a conch shell.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah.
And he would call out the people, and they would gather, and then they would begin the ceremony of, and in that, as part of that is our code of ethics. How we should engage one another.
Yeah.
How we should engage all our relations.
So it's not necessarily a Catholic thing, it's a human thing.
Nothing to do with Catholic at all.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with Catholic. It's 100% Wabanaki. 100% between us, Ono, and Creator. There's no church in there at all. It was stolen maybe by them, but...
So they're kind of using the old ways to their advantage.
I don't know what they're doing. I'm not really worried about them at all. I'm only worried about upholding what we have.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. That's the important part.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
I'm going to hold a ceremony. I think in December is a good time to do it. And we're going to have a gathering. And because once we gather because we've all hurt one another. All of us have. It's just a human nature to do that. It's stupidity, it's jealousy, it's anger, it's addictions, it's whatever that makes humans act unhuman.
Yeah.
So we all need a mechanism to come back, to reconnect with one another, to reconnect with Creator, to reconnect with all our relations.
So ceremony.
Yeah. And it's Abisiktuahan. So I'd like to do that maybe around the 10th, 12th of December, and just sit down and take that first step.
You're going to do it at the cultural center?
Or the fisheries building.
The fisheries building?
It's nice and cozy over there, right?
Yeah.
Plus they have a kitchen.
Nice view.
Nice view. It's by the water. That's why.
Crane Cove is amazing, huh?
Yeah.
Have you been in Crane Cove all your life?
Yeah, I lived there. My grandparents, that old house beside me, that's
your grandparents'
that's their
house?
homestead, yeah.
So, like, you've seen all the sunsets and all the sunrises.
Yes.
I have to stop my van sometimes, and I take a picture
I still
between
do
your
that.
driveway, and then I take pictures
I still
of it.
do that.
It's
I
crazy,
get up
huh?
every morning and I'm in awe.
Do you think there's a relation between that sunset light and morning light with the spirits?
Yes, of course there is.
Because I
I
seem
give
to.
thanks. That's where I give thanks every morning.
That's where I seem to stop too and reflect on my spirituality, is when there's a sunset or a sunrise.
It's
when
my connection. I have to give thanks, because if you don't give thanks for your blessings, then you're going to just go into... I could go into the other direction, where it's self-loathing and self-pity.
Yeah.
Where I'd rather start my day with gratitude, with counting my blessings.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To being a vehicle of what I've been asked to do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Anyways,
I think that's where I'm at
cover
right now.
everything?
I think we covered a lot.
Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for visiting me. This is
Thank
the
you
first time we sit down together.
No, we haven't. We already...
Well, not the first time we sit down together, but to talk seriously
like this. Yeah.
It's the first time, because I think the last time I was with you was at the Missing and Murdered Women's March in town a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I kind of had to take a break from my emotions when it came to that. So it's difficult stuff that we have to cover, but we have to do it. We have to get through it, and thank you very much for being with us today and sharing us your story.
Thank you for listening as well, folks.
When do you think the book's going to come out?
Well, if I can get a printer and print it out, I'd like to spend the next couple of weeks doing some minor additions. I would like to send it off to... I have to print it in order to send it to a publisher.
Okay.
So I need a good printer that I can work on doing editing, and so that I could submit a draft.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a barrier, but But I had a friend just now told me she was going to try to get me a printer.
That's awesome.
And then from there, I will try to move forward and getting it to a publisher. Hopefully, Atlantic Canada publisher, not Fernwood. I don't like Fernwood.
Yeah. Something local, huh?
I'm going to try Nimbus.
Okay.
And see if Nimbus is interested. I think they might be. And we'll see. There's a lot involved. I need to get an editor.
Yeah.
I need to get a book agent. I mean, there's a lot involved. Once I get it written, the draft written, then I have to go about and finding a way to hire an editor and all this other stuff.
So there's extra cost to that too.
Oh, God, yes.
Oh, yeah.
So, but I'm also looking for funding through Canada Council for the Arts and through Nova Scotia Arts.
But one thing you're known for is determination.
Yeah,
so
I am.
Bulldozer right through it. So expect the whale tales to be coming out soon.
It's actually, you know what? It's actually, I was taught by the elders to have Ulnuidasi, and it's called Ulnulogic, where like when you're a linear thinker, you get a barrier, you hit a barrier, and you're stuck.
Yeah.
But Ulnuidasin,
you go around it.
Or over it. Or under it.
Yeah.
Or you remove the barrier.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You blow it up.
You blow it up. Or piece by piece, really nicely. Whatever, right? But the point is, there's always another way.
Yeah.
And we do that by working together.
So we don't necessarily start from the start and end at the end.
No.
We could end from the start and end from the beginning. And
we just want to reach our goal.
Yeah. So any which way
And we don't
possible.
have to go in a straight line.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can go other ways.
It's kind of a hunter's attitude, because sometimes there's logs in front of you, sometimes there's rocks to climb, and we still have to eat. So either way, we got to get the rabbit.
That's with me. I'm a survivor. I have to figure it out, and in order for me, sometimes I just have to retreat and pray.
Yeah.
That's how I do it.
That's where I go. I go to the cove. When we go to the cove, that's my piece.
But anyway, my friend, I have to get going. So
we're gonna talk all day if we keep this up.
Yeah, we will. I will, anyways.
So this was Elizabeth Marshall, and this is Andre from Ripple Effects. We had a day in the life of a water protector, and Whale Tales coming out soon, and hopefully we'll talk again.
Hopefully next summer it'll be out, or spring. That's my goal.
I'm looking forward to reading the book, and the story was very interesting, and
thank you very much.
It's got good relations with what we're talking about. Yep. So I'm going to sign out, and we're going to let Elizabeth go home.
See ya.
So thank you. Escasoni Ripple Effects signing out.